Yes, I did name my daughter Richard. I just always really loved the name Richard, and I wanted a boy, but I had a girl, and I decided to name her Richard anyway.
There is nothing more embarrassing than walking around with one of these. Everyone knows how it got there. You know what you did.
Everyone thought Bobbi Althoff was done. Her podcast had ended, her reputation was wrecked, and even her marriage had fallen apart under the weight of viral fame. She'd become a punchline, another creator who rose too fast and crashed even faster. Then, out of nowhere, she came back. And sitting across from her was Drake. Yes, the Drake. The same man who'd mocked her, unfollowed her, and indirectly helped destroy her career. Now he's back on her new podcast, and no one can explain why. Why would one of the biggest artists in the world risk his image to appear on her show again? Why would Bobbi return to the very thing that ruined her in the first place? And most importantly, who's really pulling the strings this time? Because this comeback doesn't feel accidental. It feels planned, calculated. Every detail, from the sarcastic title, "Not This Again," to her sudden shift in tone, seems deliberate, like part of a bigger PR game we're only starting to see. Bobbi's story has always been built on confusion. Her deadpan humor, her awkward silences, her ability to make celebrities squirm. But now the confusion isn't just part of her act. It is the act. The more people question her, the more famous she gets. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe Bobbi never fell off. Maybe she was just waiting for the right time to come back. Because when you look closely, this isn't just a comeback story. It's a strategy. To understand how Bobbi pulled off the most confusing comeback on the internet, we need to go back, before the fame, before the backlash, before Drake. Before Bobbi Althoff became one of the internet's biggest enigmas, she was just another mom on TikTok with a phone, a monotone voice, and an oddly magnetic awkwardness. There was no master plan, no PR team, no hidden industry ties. At least, that's how it looked. She wasn't trying to be the loudest or the funniest. She was trying to be nothing. And somehow, that was what made people watch. From 2021 to 2023, Bobbi's dry, offbeat humor started catching fire across TikTok. While most creators exaggerated their personalities, Bobbi went the opposite direction. Emotionless delivery, long pauses, and jokes that seemed to land by accident. Her parenting skits, where she'd mock the unrealistic expectations of being a mom online, didn't scream viral material. Yet people couldn't stop watching. It was so uncomfortable that it became hypnotic. Within 2 years, she'd built an audience of more than 3.6 million followers, and a brand built entirely on silence, sarcasm, and secondhand tension. But Bobbi didn't want to stay a TikTok comedian forever. She was ambitious. She studied what worked, what got attention, and what made money. When she stumbled across another creator revealing how much they made from podcasting, hundreds of thousands a year, Bobbi's next move became obvious. She decided to launch her own show, The Really Good Podcast. The name alone was a joke, ironic, self-aware, and perfectly in line with her personality. It was never about polish. The charm came from the chaos. Guests would arrive expecting an interview, and instead find themselves in an awkward staring contest with Bobbi, unsure if she was trolling them or serious. Her humor wasn't flashy. It was subtle, quiet, almost unsettling. And that uneasiness was addictive to watch. From the very first episodes, viewers were split. Some thought she was a comedic genius. Others thought she was just bad at talking. But the reaction didn't matter. The engagement did. Every clip of her making guests squirm racked up millions of views. Every awkward pause became a meme. And then came the moment that changed everything. The interview that no one could have predicted, not even her fans. Drake. Out of nowhere, Bobbi announced she'd landed one of the most elusive rappers in the world as her guest. It made no sense. No media outlet could get Drake on a podcast, yet somehow this new creator, known for her weird pauses and blank expressions, had done it. The internet instantly lit up with speculation. Who was she connected to? How did she pull this off? And most importantly, why Drake? That single interview catapulted Bobbi into a completely different league of fame. Millions tuned in to watch her act unimpressed by one of the most famous musicians alive. The clips flooded social media, her pretending not to know his songs, him laughing awkwardly, their strange chemistry. The internet was obsessed, but the viral success came with an uncomfortable side effect: doubt. People started to question if Bobbi's rise was really authentic. She wasn't a celebrity, she wasn't an industry insider, and yet somehow she was sitting next to megastars who normally only appeared on mainstream networks. The phrase industry plant started showing up everywhere. Still, at that moment, Bobbi didn't seem to care. She was on top of the world, millions of new followers, endless media attention, and the power to make even the most famous names feel small. It was the peak of her career. What no one realized, though, was that her biggest moment of success was also the beginning of her downfall. That one interview changed everything: her fame, her reputation, and her life. But what started as a viral victory would soon spiral into the controversy that nearly ended her career. When Bobbi Althoff's episode with Drake went live, the internet froze for a second. Nobody could believe what they were seeing. This wasn't a celebrity journalist, a seasoned interviewer, or even a professional entertainer. It was a TikToker with deadpan humor sitting in Drake's bed, acting like she barely knew who he was. And that was the genius of it. Or, depending on who you ask, the problem. From the opening moments, the tone was offbeat. Bobbi sat across from Drake, stone-faced and monotone, asking him questions that felt both absurd and bold. "Do you think I'm bad at rapping?" she asked, without a hint of irony. "I've never heard your music," she added, like it was nothing. Drake looked stunned. You could almost see him trying to figure out whether she was joking or genuinely clueless. It was awkward, it was uncomfortable, and it was impossible to stop watching. Clips from the interview flooded every platform within hours. TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, everyone was dissecting it. Was it satire? Was she trolling? Or was this just who she really was? Whatever the answer, the internet loved it. Within days, Bobbi's subscriber count exploded. She'd become the newest obsession in a space oversaturated with polished, predictable creators. But here's where the story turns. Because for every person laughing at the absurdity of it all, another was growing suspicious. How did she even get Drake in the first place? He didn't do random interviews, especially not ones this weird. The idea that Drake, one of the most media-aware artists on the planet, would casually appear on a new, unknown podcast seemed too good to be true. And when things seem too good to be true online, the internet starts investigating. It didn't take long before people began calling her an industry plant, a label that would haunt her from that point on. The theory spread like wildfire. Bobbi wasn't just some awkward mom who got lucky. She was being pushed by powerful connections behind the scenes. Her organic rise was actually a marketing strategy. And whether or not it was true didn't really matter. The idea stuck. Then, during the same interview, things took an even darker turn. In one moment that quickly went viral for all the wrong reasons, Drake jokingly called her a bad parent for missing her daughter's birthday to film the podcast. The internet pounced. People began painting her as a selfish fame chaser who abandoned her family for views. It wasn't just a meme anymore. It became moral judgment. Bad mom, clout chaser, industry puppet. Bobbi's image went from quirky and mysterious to cold and calculated almost overnight. And to make things worse, the controversy surrounding her personal life began to merge with her professional one. Rumors started spreading about her relationship with Drake, fueled by the fact that the interview had been filmed in his bedroom. Screenshots circulated. Speculation grew. People wanted to know if the interview had crossed a line, both professionally and personally. Bobbi stayed quiet through it all. No explanations, no clarifications, just silence. And that silence only made things worse. When her husband filed for divorce months later, the internet connected the dots, whether those dots were real or not. Suddenly, her entire life became a public guessing game. Was she a victim of online hysteria, or the mastermind behind one of the smartest PR stunts of the decade? Because here's the thing. Despite the backlash, Bobbi's fame didn't shrink. It grew. Her subscriber count jumped by nearly 500,000 after the Drake episode. Her clips dominated the algorithm, and her ability to land A-list guests skyrocketed. Lil Yachty, Jessica Alba, Mark Cuban, everyone started saying yes. The awkwardness became her signature. The deadpan humor became her weapon. And even though people claimed to hate her, they couldn't stop watching her. It was the perfect contradiction. Bobbi's interviews were uncomfortable, yet captivating. Her humor was emotionless, yet weirdly human. And her success seemed both random and suspiciously well-timed. But behind the numbers, the cracks were already forming. Because when your entire brand is built on tension, on making people uneasy, eventually, that tension turns against you. Fans who once praised her authenticity began calling her repetitive. Celebrities who once admired her started mocking her, and the same internet that made her famous was about to eat her alive. What was supposed to be Bobbi's breakout moment had turned her into a target. And before long, the fame she chased would become the very thing that destroyed her. What should have been Bobbi Althoff's big break turned into the start of her collapse. The moment her Drake interview went viral, the internet's fascination twisted into suspicion. People didn't just wonder how she landed the biggest rapper in the world, they questioned why. And when no clear answer came, they made one up. Bobbi wasn't a rising star. She was an industry plant. The label stuck fast. Her awkwardness stopped feeling authentic and started feeling calculated. Every pause, every blank stare, once her charm, now looked like an act. And when her husband filed for divorce 6 months later, the rumors exploded. Did fame ruin her marriage? Was there more between her and Drake than she let on? The internet didn't need facts, it needed drama. Within weeks, Bobbi went from viral darling to public enemy. Her comments filled with accusations of clout chasing and bad parenting. Even celebrities joined in. Offset called her unseasoned. Keke Palmer said she felt a little planty. Bobbi laughed it off, but you could tell it stung. The character she built to protect herself had started working against her. Still, she tried to push forward. She booked more stars, Lil Yachty, Jessica Alba, Mark Cuban, hoping the controversy would fade. But something had changed. Her humor felt strained, her energy hollow. What used to feel clever now just felt cold. Then came the breaking point. Her friend and tour partner, Funny Marco, released a calm video explaining why their comedy tour was canceled. He said their styles didn't match. Bobbi took it as betrayal. Her emotional response, claiming depression, surgery, and abandonment, only made things worse. The internet didn't sympathize this time. It turned colder. By July 2025, she'd had enough. "This is the last episode of the Really Good podcast," she said quietly. "I didn't think I'd fall off this quickly." And just like that, the silence returned. The awkward pauses that once made her famous became her ending. Bobbi Althoff was gone. Or so everyone thought. But a few months later, that silence broke. And when Bobbi came back, she didn't just return. She came back with the one person no one expected to see again. By mid-2025, Bobbi Althoff had vanished from the spotlight. Her podcast was gone. Her audience had turned on her, and the internet had moved on to its next obsession. But the drama with Funny Marco, the last bridge she burned, lingered in people's minds. It symbolized her fall perfectly. What started as collaboration ended in silence and resentment. Marco's video had been calm, respectful. He simply said their tour didn't work because their comedy styles clashed. No insults, no shade, just honesty. But Bobbi's response was emotional, raw, and desperate. She accused him of ghosting her after surgery, ignoring her during depression, and abandoning her when she needed a friend. The internet didn't see pain. It saw manipulation. Her vulnerability, once relatable, now looked like damage control. After that, things unraveled fast. Bobbi's silence stopped, feeling mysterious, and started feeling sad. Clips of her old interviews resurfaced, but now they felt different, colder, emptier, almost tragic in hindsight. For a creator who built her brand on awkward tension, she had finally become the awkward moment herself. On July 31st, 2025, Bobbi posted one final episode. Her voice was steady, but her words carried a quiet resignation. "This is the last episode of the Really Good podcast," she said. "It's been a dream, every second of it. I just didn't think I'd fall off this quickly." No big ending, no breakdown, just a funeral for her career. And for a while, that was it. The internet stopped talking about her. The once endless stream of memes, hate, and theories went silent. To most people, Bobbi Althoff was just another name in the pile of creators who'd peaked and disappeared. But what no one realized was that the silence wasn't the end. It was the setup. Because Bobbi wasn't finished. She was waiting. 2 months later, the silence broke. And when Bobbi came back, she brought someone with her. The same man who started it all. 2 months after saying goodbye, Bobbi Althoff reappeared. Quietly, suddenly, and with perfect timing. No apology video, no grand announcement, no "I'm back" thumbnail. Just a new upload titled, "Not This Again." And sitting across from her was Drake. The internet lost its mind. The same man who unfollowed her, mocked her parenting, and supposedly ended her career was now back on her couch, joking, laughing, and acting like nothing ever happened. It didn't make sense. This was the reunion nobody expected, and yet somehow it felt planned. The tone was different this time. Gone was the painfully awkward Bobbi who hid behind silence and sarcasm. This Bobbi was calmer, softer, more self-aware. She dropped the ice-cold persona and actually talked. It wasn't a character anymore. It was conversation. And the chemistry between her and Drake was undeniable. They teased each other, reflected on their first interview, and hinted at having spent an entire week together beforehand. When Drake described that week in 3 words, bored, tired, confused, Bobbi laughed, brushing it off like they were old friends. But the internet didn't laugh. It speculated. Were they close again? Was this friendship, PR, or something more? And more importantly, why now? Because right before this comeback, Bobbi's name had all but disappeared. No buzz, no mentions, no relevance. Then, suddenly, Drake, the same artist who'd helped her rise and fall, was back to revive her brand. Her sarcastic title, "Not This Again," felt like a message to the world. She wasn't pretending to be innocent. She was leaning into the chaos. Even her YouTube description read like a taunt. "My first show was so universally loved that I had no choice but to make another. Everyone begged me to come back and told me I'm the world's best mom. It was dry, it was mocking, and it was brilliant." She wasn't fighting the narrative anymore. She was owning it. And the results spoke for themselves. Millions of views in days. Thousands of comments from people shocked, curious, and more than anything, talking about her again. Bobbi Althoff had pulled off the impossible. She'd turned her downfall into marketing. But behind all the sarcasm, a bigger question was forming. Was this really a comeback? Or just another move in a much larger game? Because as Bobbi rose back into relevance, people started to notice something strange. Her return wasn't just sudden, it was suspicious. Bobbi Althoff's comeback should have been a feel-good story. A creator rising from the ashes, proving the haters wrong. But the internet doesn't do feel-good stories. It does theories. And the biggest one came roaring back the moment Drake reappeared beside her. Bobbi never left the industry. The industry left her, then brought her back. From the outside, her return looked like redemption. But to the people watching closely, it looked rehearsed. Too clean. Too convenient. How did a creator who was done 2 months ago suddenly pull one of the most famous artists in the world again? That's when people started connecting dots. Drake and Bobbi, it turned out, shared the same talent agency. The same behind-the-scenes players who'd arranged their first viral interview were still in the picture. Maybe this wasn't about friendship or forgiveness. Maybe it was strategy. The theory spread fast. Bobbi was never just a random mom from TikTok. She was part of a carefully managed PR network, a pawn in a larger game of celebrity image control. And when Drake needed a safe space to appear after months of avoiding real hip-hop media, Bobby's show was the perfect choice. No hard questions, no tension, just light banter, inside jokes, and a host who wouldn't challenge him. In other words, a controlled narrative disguised as authenticity. People began comparing Drake's appearances. He skipped interviews with critics like DJ Academics, someone who defended him for years, yet made time for Bobby twice. Meanwhile, he rewarded creators who stayed loyal and friendly, like Aiden Ross and the Nelk Boys, showering them with access and gifts. To the internet, it looked less like generosity and more like PR chess. Drake didn't just manage his music, he managed who talked about him. And Bobby? She was the perfect piece on that board. Unthreatening, viral, controversial enough to trend, but harmless enough to control. Even her sarcasm worked in his favor. It made their interviews feel casual, unscripted, human. Exactly the kind of image Drake wanted. Of course, none of this can be proven. But that's what makes it so compelling. Because in an era where authenticity is currency, the most powerful move a celebrity can make is pretending they're not playing the game at all. And Bobby, intentionally or not, helped make that illusion possible. Still, there's another way to see it. Maybe she wasn't being used. Maybe she was using them. Maybe Bobby understood that the industry plant label wasn't a curse. It was free publicity. Every time someone accused her of being fake, she became more famous. Every time people doubted her, her views went up. Because in the end, outrage is just another form of attention. And if that's true, Bobbi Althoff might not be a pawn after all. She might be the quietest mastermind the internet's ever seen. Whether she's a puppet or a strategist, one thing's clear. Bobby's comeback worked. But the question now is, can she keep it? By the time Bobbi Althoff's second Drake interview passed 2 million views, one thing was undeniable. She was back. Her subscriber count was climbing, her clips were trending again, and her name was once more at the center of internet conversation. But beneath the surface, the question still lingered. Was this a real comeback or a controlled illusion? Because what made Bobby fascinating wasn't just her rise or her fall. It was how she blurred the line between both. Every time she seemed finished, she found a way to turn the hate into curiosity. And that's what kept people watching. She'd become a case study in modern fame, proof that in the internet era, controversy doesn't end careers. It sustains them. Her new style reflected that shift. Gone was the defensive awkwardness that once defined her. In its place, a subtler, sharper Bobby. Still dry, still sarcastic, but more intentional. The irony in her voice felt deliberate now, like she knew exactly what the internet wanted from her, and was giving it just enough to stay hungry. She wasn't running from the industry plant label anymore. She was wearing it like armor. But there's something haunting about her story. Because for all the attention, the numbers, and the newfound relevance, you can't help but wonder, what does Bobby actually gain from this? Yes, she's back in the spotlight. Yes, the internet's talking again. But the whispers of inauthenticity still follow her. The same people praising her comeback are also questioning if she ever really fell off. Maybe that's the cost of modern fame. You don't get to control the narrative, only the noise around it. Bobby might have learned that faster than anyone. Her awkward humor made her famous. Her silence made her hated. And her willingness to lean into both might be what keeps her alive online. In a strange way, Bobbi Althoff became the embodiment of the modern influencer paradox. To survive, you have to stay relevant. To stay relevant, you have to be talked about. And to be talked about, you have to give people something to question. Whether she's a PR puppet or a quiet genius, Bobby has done what few creators ever manage. She's made herself unforgettable. Because love her or hate her, everyone's still watching. And maybe that's all that really matters. Her story isn't about fame or even redemption. It's about control. Who has it, who pretends to, and who's smart enough to fake it until the algorithm decides otherwise. And if that's the new definition of success online, then Bobbi Althoff might just be winning. Because in a world where attention is everything, the The truth doesn't matter nearly as much as the story that gets people to click. And Bobbi's story, confusing, polarizing, impossible to pin down, keeps doing exactly that. Maybe Bobbi's greatest talent isn't humor, or interviewing, or even self-awareness. Maybe it's knowing exactly how to make people talk, even when they think they've figured her out.